I'm sorry, it's an open meeting at 4:03 p.m. And Chris, what we were saying before we got on was just that in the interest of time, keep everyone to 10 minutes. I'll keep track of time. We got 4 questions. I just forwarded them to you along with Tracy and the city manager. We'll go Carol on the first one, Scott on the second, Chris on the third, Lance on the fourth. And then for the incumbents, we'll ask a 5th question, which I'll ask, which is just Brenda and Ryan. And okay, and the 5th one is basically like, what are you most proud of and what still needs to happen or improve in terms of land use?
I think a better question to ask a planning commissioner is, in your time looking back, is there any decision you've made that you may have made differently now seeing it in real life? They can be a little retrospective. And Tracy, that phone number is Corey Zupo.
Oh, so she's on there twice.
But she's on mute. So, but that is her phone number. She texted me.
Okay.
Do we know this? I know we're going to get going here, but do these people plan on resigning from the environmental committee if they join the planning commission? Or is that a discussion point afterward?
Probably a question you need to ask.
I would think we could ask during whoever thinks of that when that person's up for, that's for Kevin and Corey. Okay, one other thing. How do we want to score? Because this is a little bit different. Again, remember DEI was a really deliberative process. Remember, this is being recorded. So any suggestions on how we want to discuss the candidates at the end of the interview and then make the decision?
Not really sure how to score it, to be honest with you. Isn't it going to be kind of like a kind of a gut feel based on what the application is and how they answer these questions?
Could be, yeah.
No?
I mean, we got two incumbents, so that's a big decision is, do we want to continue forward with that? So anyway, I don't think we should probably get into too much. I just, knowing again that this is going to be recorded and people might want to go back and look at how we deliberate. I think we should just be really mindful of that and treat it almost like you're doing an HR interview in your employment, knowing that we don't want to offend anyone, obviously. Okay. I think Tracy, so if we're starting with Corey, it's 4:05. So I'll keep time. And if I feel like it's going too long with the question, I might ask you guys to move on or ask the applicant to move on so we can keep it to 10 minutes each. Okay. So we're starting with Corey at either 4:05 or probably 4:06 at this point. So you want to let her in, Tracy?
Yep. Here comes Corey.
And Carol, you can just jump into the first question. We all know Corey.
Okay.
There she is.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, then I'm gonna hang up on my phone. I've never done it this way, so okay. Hello.
We can't see you, we can just hear you.
Oh, okay. Can you, that's weird.
Can you see us?
Yeah. Let me, I don't know.
Is your picture, your window screen closed?
Let's see. I am on my laptop in my son's room because he got sent home from daycare sick. So I'm not in my normal work environment. So I apologize.
No, it's okay. Hey, we're all technically challenged.
Yeah, she's a full panelist, so there should be no issue with that.
Check. Do you have something blocking the camera?
Oh, nope. Oh, here it is.
There you go. We see you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I swear I do this all the time, just not with Zoom. I use Microsoft Teams at work.
That's okay. Well, welcome, Corey. Welcome to thank you for putting yourself forward to interview for the Planning Commission's position. So we're going to start off. We're going to have 5 questions, and each of us are going to ask you a question, and we'll kick it off to expedite it. So I'm going to be the first one. So the first question is, describe your interest describe your interest in serving on the Planning Commission. Like, why do you want to serve on the Planning Commission?
Okay. Yeah, I would like to serve on the Planning Commission because I've always been passionate about helping whatever community I live in. And that's why I joined the Environmental Committee. But I just feel like I'd be more effective on a role where the city comes to me with projects instead of us coming to them. So in the committee, a lot of times we come up with ideas and it just doesn't go really that far. And so at my current job, I've been involved in many construction projects. I have LEED AP certification, done many entitlements, CEQA, NEPA, you name it. So I do feel like I have a lot to provide. It's just I'd be more helpful if I knew what the city needed help with and what projects are coming down the pipeline. And I completely understand the need for development, and with, especially in California, that there's through the housing element, all the different requirements for ultra low, low, medium income. So that's where why I want to help, because I do feel like I have an asset that I could help the city.
Well, thank you. Next up.
Scott, that's you're muted, bud.
Myself.
There you go.
There we go. Corey, welcome. So the second question is, from your perspective, what are some of the more pressing land use issues facing the city of El Segundo?
Okay, that's a good question. From my perspective, it's mainly the east side. So there is a lot of vacant land, and I do know that the city majority of the tax comes from businesses, but I know the state is requiring housing. So the east side of town, just figuring out that balance with mixed use. And in my LEED certification, dealing with all those projects is mixed development, where you have the housing on top, the shops on the bottom, something along those lines, and along the metro. So one of the things, I come from the Inland Empire, there's a lot of sprawl. It's insane. Here, we do have public transportation, so trying to be mindful of finding the balance. So basically, make long story short, the east side of town, there's a lot of potential. On the west side of town, where we currently live, ADUs, just having some sort of program, like Santa Cruz has an EDU program, Merlin County has an EDU. So something where we get more accountability. Because for example, our house has an ADU. I don't know if the city knows about it by the way that we're zoned. I have no idea. So just, that's the only opportunities I see on this side of town, is having more of a log of some sort of the ADUs.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Corey, at the 2003 CMA Awards, Alan Jackson was awarded Entertainer of the. Oh wait. How has your education, professional background, and overall experience prepared you for service on the Planning Commission?
That's a good question. So working for an airline, we have a very volatile environment. So your roles and responsibilities change frequently. So in my current job, I've been there 7 years. I've done everything from construction to air emissions. Now I oversee our international audit program. And I also oversee our environmental information management system, which is all the technology that, like the automation. So in my short 7 years there, I've put on a lot of hats. I also too have my master's degree in environmental science and my undergrad in environmental science. And I've been on the environmental committee, I think 6 or 7 years. So I've gotten a taste of how things are getting done. Because coming here green and not understanding how the city works. I mean, green, not environmentally. I'm talking about like not knowing how the city worked. I had all these aspirations, and I realized there's a full structure, because working for a private company, when you need something done, you just kind of go and do it as long as you have the budget. So that's basically through those avenues. I do feel like I have a lot to value, and I understand more of how the city works. And definitely the constraints. I mean, working for an airline, COVID hit us, one of the first companies back in January of 2020. We're already talking about layoffs. So completely understand being nimble and having your finances under control.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Corey, I got to the next one. And the question is, what unique El Segundo experience do you bring to the table?
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say what unique is I'm not from here. And I've lived in a lot of places in Southern California. I've lived in pretty much every beach city you can imagine. But I was born and raised out in Riverside. My parents live in Rancho Cucamonga. So I know how other places are. And living in the city of Long Beach gave me a good perspective, because I felt like that city always had pretty good balance between businesses, especially with the port right there, and the environment and sustainability, and also just making sure that they were a good employer for large companies. And growing out in the Inland Empire, I completely understand sprawl and when things are not properly planned. I also understand how Prop 13 works, and that we don't collect a lot from property taxes. So it is very crucial that we do attract businesses here. So that's where I feel I see all sides of what happens when you just let businesses come in and do sprawl like on the Inland Empire, versus, Long Beach, where they've had things properly planned out.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Corey, Good to see you. Thanks for being here. And Chris, thank you for the icebreaker. That was good and much needed. It's weird with Zoom. You know that.
Alan
Anyway,
Jackson too.
this is just a question I'm going to ask that we're going to probably ask every candidate at this point. You mentioned the East Side housing. So just, I'd like to hear what your perspective is on the appetite for that in town.
Yeah, so I know in town people definitely don't want it. I honestly didn't want it at all until last year when I started to understand the problem, because I saw a lot of Facebook chatter on it and I started researching and I realized we really have no choice. If we don't do something, the state will do it for us. So it makes more sense for us to get ahead of the problem first and to methodically plan it out. Because if we just sit back and do nothing, the state will, plow right in and do it. But one of the things though is from my take is the East Side, the housing is all the businesses that live, the Raytheon, the Boeing, because I know that's why we moved here, is because my work's right here. So it's like being mindful of that. But I do know that the state has requirements that we have to have a certain amount. I think it's like 189 low income. We have to have a certain amount of middle income. So we do have metrics that we do have to meet, but being very mindful. And that's where part of being on the Plan Commission, I want to see if I could help of that mindfulness, like if we could help shape the development around what we want the community to be. So, and I read a lot about other communities, what they're doing. For example, providing low income housing to employees that work for the city, like teachers or fire department. And I know they're probably not even low income, but I don't know now these days in California, $60,000 may be low income. So just there's so many different things that other cities have done. I know in Baltimore, they have huge programs providing housing incentives for employees, fire department, police department, teachers. So I'm not going to say I'm an expert. I just try to really research everything before I make a decision. And that's just how I feel I could help.
Thanks, Corey. Okay, one other question. You're on the environmental committee now. When does your term end on that committee? I know you're the vice chair.
Yeah, I believe I had 2 more years. And I don't know the rules behind this, but I was planning to still do the environmental committee if I'm allowed to, and just recuse myself anytime it came up with construction.
Well, but if you had to pick one or the other, which would you prefer?
I would do the Planning Commission because I just feel like I could provide more. But I want to note, though, the environmental committee, that Elias was an excellent hire and he is amazing. I just wish he was here for the last 6 or 7 years I devoted my time to that committee.
Thanks, Corey. All right, you got a couple minutes. You got actually 1 minute. I'm looking at the clock. Is there anything else you want to add before we go on to the next candidate?
I may not be the most qualified in this, I think I am, but I'm very passionate and I will take the time to understand something if I have the ability and the resources. Because the environmental committee, a lot of times we didn't have the data, and I'm a very process driven person, but if I don't have the data, all I have is emotions. So.
Great. Thank you, Corey. Appreciate your time and for applying.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Have a great night.
Thank you too.
All right. Madam Clerk, I think we're ready for the next candidate. And next up is Ryan Baldino. I'll just start the 10-minute clock from whenever he gets on.
Hello.
Hello, Ryan. We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh, that's weird. Everything was working just fine.
Corey had the same problem, but I'm not sure.
All right, bear with me. I know you guys are on a time crunch. You want to start asking me questions while I fiddle with my.
You're good. You're
sure,
good.
okay.
We're okay. You're just giving your time. You got 8 minutes and 33 seconds right now, Ryan. You keep the clock's ticking. I'm just kidding. You want to start, Ryan, without the video, or?
Yeah, no. Why don't you do that? Because I just used this and it worked.
It seems like your camera might be on because the little person icon isn't there, but we just don't see you.
Oh no, it's on.
It does show your video is on and your mic.
Do you have something covering your camera?
No, I looked at that, Carol. Hold on.
Are you in a dark room? Okay, well, let's get started. So why are you, this is Kate, we're going to ask you, each of us are going to ask you a question, and we are asking the same questions to everybody. So there's consistency in the questions. So why are you interested on continuing to serve on the Planning Commission?
Well, I'm proud of what the Planning Commission's been able to do over the years that I've been involved. I enjoy being able to work with city staff on these issues and try as best I can to encourage other members of our community to get involved and stay informed in these issues. I think what I'm able to bring to the table is years of experience of kind of knowing what the city can and can't do. I've got a good working background of the challenges the city's facing moving forward, and I'm excited to see what we can do.
Thank you.
Hi, Ryan, pleasure as always. From your perspective, what are the more pressing land use issues facing the city of El Segundo?
You know, I think we have a pretty good understanding of what our zoning is for the city. I know housing is always on the forefront of everyone's mind and concern, and that's understandable with what we're being handed by the state. And that's something we're going to have to deal with. As you know, I'm always a little hesitant on the ADU development, but I've been keeping my eye on that, and I don't see that as really forming a detrimental impact on the city. You know, we get a couple of complaints of the look or style of some of the ADUs, but I think they're serving a purpose and they're really going to help the city hit our housing numbers if we can package that up the right way. But as far as any overwhelming, crushing land use issue, outside of the typical complaints and concerns we're getting from some of the larger developments in town, you know, I don't really see any major underlying issues that should be a concern.
Thank you.
Ryan, as you are aware, we are in the second decade of California forbidding the keeping of ferrets as domestic pets. As a planning, Ryan, how has your education, professional background, and overall life experience prepared you to continue, if selected, on the Planning Commission at this time?
Well, as you know, I'm a construction litigator, so I read plans and deal with construction issues for a living. I think being an attorney allows me to have good reading comprehension skills to read through volumes of material and summarize those in a concise manner. And I see a big part of my job is trying to explain, you know, during these public hearings, what is the Planning Commission doing? Why are we doing it? And why do we have this process? So I will oftentimes contact staff and be like, hey, here are the questions I want to ask. Not because I have these questions, but I think these are important to bring to the forefront to kind of educate anyone who's watching, you know, what it is we're doing in this particular fashion.
Hey, Ryan, I got the next one. What unique El Segundo experience do you bring to the table?
Unique El Segundo experience. Well, I originally signed up for this Planning Commission role because I was jealous of watching my wife, then the choir teacher at an elementary school, give such a positive contribution to this community. You know, she was like a little local celebrity and all the parents loved her, and I could just see how much she got back from all the hours she put into putting on these shows. And as an attorney, you know, I can't sing or dance. So I thought, what could I do? And looking at what was available at the time, Planning Commission seemed to be a fit. And I have thoroughly enjoyed, you know, my time serving the city in this capacity. And you know, that kind of what motivates me to keep volunteering my time is because of what I get out of it. You know, I feel a great deal of satisfaction in having some small say in planning the future of our city and trying the best we can to grow, but also keep El Segundo that special place that we all know and love.
Thanks, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan, it's Drew. And I got one question that we're going to ask everybody, and then a couple questions that are specific to incumbents. So first one is, what do you think the El Segundo residents' perspective at large is on housing on the east side?
That's going to depend on who you ask, to be quite honest. That you can get a mixed bag on that. There are a lot of people who do not ever want to see housing on the east side of El Segundo. And from the kind of, keep Gundo feel, I get that concern to where we're all locked in a 1 square mile radius, where I enjoy driving around town and seeing people I know, and people don't want to lose that kind of small town feel. Now, the flip side of that is we're facing several state mandates that if we don't take action and try to at least look like we're providing the housing required, they could come in and start rezoning our entire city. So it's a question I think needs to be talked about and discussed, but it also needs to be discussed in a very pragmatic approach so that we're not rushing forward and, rezoning the incomplete east side for any multi-use, multi-family purposes without thinking through what does that mean to our school districts? Those kids will be Wiseburn kids. What does it mean to our sense of community? What does it mean to parks and recs and our police and fire? So it's a loaded question, and I don't think there's an easy answer, but I'm more than happy to have that conversation with anybody.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Okay, the next one's more or less a two-part. Are there any decisions that you would do differently in retrospect while on Planning Commission? And the second part of that is, what are you most excited about if you were to serve on the Planning Commission again, like work to be done?
Something I'd like to have a mulligan over. I kind of wish, and I'm going back probably 8 years, when we kind of rubber stamped the cell phone tower at the Richmond Street Elementary School campus. I kind of wish we kind of would have had a little more conversation about that, because once those things are installed, they're not going away. What am I looking forward to? I'm proud of the kind of discussions that we're having on Planning Commission. We had a really good group of people who were very vested in reading these materials and brought a lot of different perspectives to the table. And even though we would disagree, it would always be in a professional, collegiate sense to where we can kind of joke around. But at the end of the day, I feel anyone on Planning Commission is comfortable expressing, what they feel or asking any question they want. And that's how we're able to kind of work through these issues and hopefully come up with a result that's in the best interests of everybody.
All right, thank you, sir. We got a couple minutes left. You started at 4:18. Anything else you want to add?
No, just, I've like I said, I've enjoyed my time on the Planning Commission. I look forward to continuing to volunteer to help make the city a better place. And, I enjoy my volunteer work, whether it was Planning Commission or working with the school district on their bond program. I like knowing what the city's up to and what the next steps are. And a big passion of mine is trying to inform other people. I think we should have as much participation from people in this town as possible. One of the things that drives me crazy, to be honest, is we'll have 2 or 3 hearings on a subject matter, and then only after it's passed and there's an article in the paper do people talk to me about, oh, why'd you do that? And, and it's like, how much more can we do to encourage people to attend these meetings and give input? And they seem to only care once it's already done. So I'm a big proponent of activism and trying to get people involved as much as possible. And that's something I try to do. And one thing I want to work with on staff is when we do get emails sent to all planning commissioners, that those are kind of responded to in a general sense of thank you for taking time, and your comments definitely be passed along, because my emails on my cell phone, it's hard for me to respond to that. And I just want to make sure from at least a staff level that anyone who's taken the time to express their thoughts is being responded to and at least thanked for participating, and that they know your comments are going to be passed on to Planning Commission for consideration.
That's great. Thanks, Ryan. Okay. Thank you, sir. Have a great evening.
Yeah. Sorry about the camera, guys.
Sorry. We all know you. Thank you.
I look really good though today. I don't know if I should tell.
Sure. All right, bud. Thank you.
All right. Next.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Is Julie Newman. I am moving her over.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so thank you for putting your name in for a candidate for the Planning Commission. We're going to ask you 5 questions. Each of us are going to ask you a question, and then you have some time at the end to ask us any questions. And these are the same questions that we're asking everybody, so there's consistency. So the first question is, why are you interested in joining the Planning Commission?
Sure. A big part of my work, I'm an interior designer, is realizing that environment impacts how we live our lives every day. I feel very strongly that I want to be an integral part of how the city's planned and how we move forward. We specifically chose to move to El Segundo because you do get that community feel, and I want to see how I can help continue that community feel going forward.
Thank you.
I got the second question, and it escaped me, but in your opinion, what are the more pressing land use issues that we're facing here in El Segundo?
I think like much of the rest of Los Angeles, it's housing. I see this all the time with work as well, whether people want to build ADUs or that we need low-income housing. I think that's going to be the most pressing issue going forward. You know, there's other issues, but I think that that's going to be the biggest one.
Thank you.
Hi there, Julie. This is Chris. I have question 3. And that is, how has your education, professional background, and overall life experience prepared you for service on the Planning Commission?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a bachelor's degree from LMU in political science, and I have a master's from Cambridge in law. So reading tedious documents is up my alley. After that, I decided to go to design school, and I became an interior designer. And I also hold certificates in accessible design, where I've actually helped several retail and commercial spaces become accessible to everyone who patrons them. Life experience, pretty much all I do all day is manage construction projects, deal with the city, work with permits, work with zoning. So yeah, I would think that would be how my experience helps.
Thank you.
Hey, Julie, this is Lance Giroux. I have a 4th question for you. What unique El Segundo experience do you bring to the table?
Absolutely. So I grew up in Los Angeles, but not in this area. My husband and I chose to move here because of the community we felt we would get here, and we have in the past few years. We're both small business owners here. And we've seen the community support we get for being small business owners here. We're in very different industries. I also think the fact that I've lived all over, I've lived in England, Spain, Chicago, Washington, D.C. I've seen how different cities function. So it brings a unique perspective to coming here.
Thank you.
Hi, Julie. It's Drew Boyles. How are you?
Hi.
Thanks for being on. My question relates to the east side of town. So if you think of everything east of Pacific Coast Highway, which is right now, as I'm sure you know, a commercial district.
Right.
What do you think the residents' perspective is on housing on the east side of PCH, east side of town?
I'm sure it'd be very mixed, you know, just from conversations I've had with people, it's going to be a mixed reaction. However, if the state mandates it, it's much better that El Segundo makes the changes before they're made for them, because it's complicated. When you bring in low-income housing, it's affecting every aspect of the area. So it's a long conversation that needs to be had. And I think community input is very important in that. But it's better that we take control in those decisions than it being made for us.
Great, thanks. And then you have a few minutes left. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I would love to be part of the commission. Construction is my life at this point. And I think what makes this area unique, really is the general plan, right? What businesses we have here, the aesthetics of housing. Are we going to allow ADUs? What are those ADUs going to look like? Is it going to be a cohesive style with what this area is? It's keeping that small community feel, but still progressing and growing. So what does that look like? And I think a large part of that is community involvement as well, is hearing what people want to see for the area and making decisions based off of that.
Great, thank you. Well, we do have ADUs. You probably haven't even seen them because I think we've done a pretty good job. The Planning Commission actually, they came forward with some pretty stringent requirements. Council relaxed those a little bit, but we do have, I'm actually personally a little surprised we don't have more of them in town, but we certainly have, I think last count, probably have like 40 built. Scott, you would know. Councilman Nichols, that sound about right? 40 or so?
That's about right. I think the last update we got was 36.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the biggest one in town, I think, Julie, is right across the street from you almost, probably over a little slightly west, probably throw a tennis ball at it. There's a significantly well done, but very large ADU behind the house.
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah. It's kind of diagonal to me.
That's right.
It's booming. ADUs are booming all over Los Angeles. I mean, I get requests every day to design ADUs, draw up floor plans for them. And the important part of them is that if we're going to add these additional housing options, is that we keep it aesthetically in line with what's going on in the neighborhood. I mean, in Los Angeles, you go through different neighborhoods and you see kind of very different style homes, one next to the other. Whereas in El Segundo, you have more of a cohesive feel. So wherever we decide to turn the future with housing and how we want to solve housing problems is keeping it within the spirit of the community.
Thank you. And I want to commend you being here not that long and throwing your hat in the ring right away.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one thing I'd say is that several of us that you're looking at here have thrown our hat in the ring multiple times before we got into any one thing. So don't, if you don't get it this time, don't give up is I guess what I'm saying. Please, because we need talented people like yourself involved in the community. All right. Yeah, thank you. That does it. I think we're good. Thank you very much. It was nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You have Kevin up next. Come on, Kevin. Okay, he should be over.
There you are. Hi.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, members.
Yeah, thank you for putting your name in to be interviewed for the Planning Commission, and thank you for your service on the Environmental Committee that you're on now. So we're going to ask you, I know this is different than the previous time that you did the interview. So we're going to ask you 5 questions. Each of us are going to ask you a question, and then there's going to be some time at the end for you to answer any additional questions, ask us questions. So I'm first, and we're going to ask you, why are you interested in becoming a planning commissioner?
Well, I'm interested primarily because I'm a firm believer in giving back to the community and contributing and finding a place like El Segundo. I've lived in places, large cities like the city of Long Beach and the city of LA, where you couldn't help if you tried. You'd have to go through this weird process. But I think that given this opportunity and the place that I moved to about 9 years ago that I've grown to love, I'm not going to let that opportunity go. And I've been helping on the environmental committee. I helped with we've done a lot over the time on my environmental committee. It's kind of grown quite a bit. We developed the work plan. I was one of the leads on the Paris Agreement, and an item that went to the council. I was the lead on looking at community choice aggregation for electricity, and I'm currently the lead for developing a smoking ban, which you guys are going to hear soon. But I just want to continue and evolve my form of service to the city of El Segundo. That's why I'm applying to the Planning Commission.
Councilman Nickel.
Sorry, Kevin, I was muted there. How are you, bud?
Good, Scott. Happy birthday, by the way.
Nice to see you again. Thank you, sir. So from your perspective, what are the more pressing land use issues facing the city of El Segundo currently?
Well, I kind of see land use opportunities within the city of El Segundo. A good friend of mine, he's actually my brother-in-law. He's an economist for one of the major commercial real estate developers. And he said that El Segundo is just bursting with opportunity. It's really the two top places right now, the two hottest markets are El Segundo and Culver City in terms of tech and media. And he's telling me that the best thing to do for El Segundo is to take advantage of that. You have to strike while the iron's hot. We've kind of developed this neat niche of kind of being the hub for cosmetics and fashion. Right now, a lot of people are trying to get in here in those sectors, but there's so much more to get. And I think that I guess the opportunity is maximizing that potential that we have in the different spaces, especially as some are vacating. I think that there's a lot of people that want to get in, which is why I really, I know city planning pretty well. Looking at the specific plan for Smoky Hollow, I thought that was just a really well done document. I'm trying to leverage what's kind of the hot aesthetic right now, and kind of leveraging the existing look of Smoky Hollow to kind of capture that market. So I mean, there are land use issues per se, but I see them more as opportunities. But there's just the market here is so high right now. I'm really excited to, if I do get selected to the Planning Commission, I'm really excited to be a part of that.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. How has your education, professional background, and overall life experience prepared you for service on the Planning Commission?
Well, I have a degree from USC in environmental studies, and that got me into this world of doing environmental assessments and understanding the processes for approving projects. But I do know government pretty well. I used to work for the city of LA, and in my role now, I work with government agencies and elected officials and municipalities, more so with the Sacramento type folks now, more than cities, but I do have a good knowledge of that. In fact, when I worked for the city, I worked for a development agency within the city of LA, so I'm knowledgeable about city processes for and approval processes that a typical planning commission does. And I used to do consulting for obtaining permits through planning commissions, through the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. And CEQA, I did assessments on different CEQA categories. Like they have the true environmental ones like air, water, and noise, but they also have kind of more social ones, including like traffic, transportation, land use, housing, and public safety. And I know, so the topics are very similar to a general plan, what's included in the general plan elements. And I know them really well, some more than others. Some of them I have a really high level of expertise, but the rest of them I know have a good foundation for. So I think as a private citizen, I do have a lot of experience that helps to set me up well for the Planning Commission. And I think, with that environmental background, environmental focused background, I think that it brings a different look to the Planning Commission and how we approve kind of bigger projects like the ones coming up on Sepulveda. And even looking historically at something like a Chick-fil-A, I think that environmental perspective would have benefited that project, and it could benefit projects in the future.
Thank you.
Hey, Kevin, how are you?
Good, Lance.
All right, so my question is, what unique El Segundo experience do you bring to the table?
That's a good question. Well, when I think about El Segundo, when I was thinking about, why I wanted it, what I explained to you guys, is kind of this community that I came to grow and love. And I think that I kind of reflect on my time here. I moved here 9 years ago with my girlfriend, now wife, or my girlfriend at the time, now wife, and we kind of hung out on Main Street and did that thing. And then we had kids, and then moved to the other side of town. And now our oldest one's in the school district. But I feel like during that time that I've grown, I've seen El Segundo grow and change as well. And I feel like, oddly, that me and the city, as my relationship with El Segundo continues, we're kind of evolving together. I think you guys have probably seen a kind of an evolution of El Segundo. It just seems to be getting better over the years, over the last decade. And for me to come in basically in El Segundo 9 years ago as almost a completely different person and kind of grow with the city and see all the benefits of the city, especially as a minority going through this. When I first moved to El Segundo, some people were saying why, like why would you do that? But I've seen good things change in El Segundo. I haven't experienced much of the bad, but it's just a kind of a magical place, and especially for me and my time in my life, that I want to be part of it as it continues to grow, as I do as well as a person.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Lance. Kevin, good to see you.
Hi, Drew.
How are you, man? Good to see you. Long time. Last question is, what do you think the El Segundo residents at large, their perspective would be on residential development east of PCH?
It's good to see you too. Last time I saw you was State of the City last year before the world shut down. And
2 days. I was sweating bullets for 2 weeks till after that date. I think we all were. 500 people. It was crazy.
I remember I was like, all right, I'll see you at your birthday party. But it didn't happen. Thank God it didn't happen.
That's right.
But for the east side of town, I think it's going to be mixed. People have different opinions on it. I think that there are potential opportunities there. For me personally, I like the fact that there's no residences out there on that side for now. I think that El Segundo is a very well-planned city where, all the residences are one spot. It's next to a refinery, but there's a buffer zone there. There's even the buffers on the other side. Everything is planned pretty well to keep, land uses compatible. And that's kind of my main concern, is that can we continue to develop that area and still have compatible land uses? I know there's things like auto body places, light manufacturing. Does it make sense to put residential areas there? I don't know. But while that's my preference, I wouldn't be opposed to it. If El Segundo had a problem that we felt it was required to solve, and that was part of the solution, then I'd be all for it. I know that there's a lot of chatter about it in the past couple of years, that it could help this, it could help that. But to me, that's kind of taking the approach of, instead of taking the approach of, we have a problem, here's the solution, we're kind of saying, here's the solution, now let's go find a problem. I would rather just have it directly solve one of El Segundo's pressing issues that we really, really want to and have to solve as a city. If that's part of the solution, then I'm all for it. But my preference right now is to keep it as it is.
Thank you, sir. You got 1 minute left. Anything else you'd like to share with the council?
No, not really. I think I know most of you guys by now, and the environmental committee has been great. I just think that it's because of what I can bring to the city with my experience and knowledge in this field. I think that a good evolution for me in my public service to El Segundo would be the Planning Commission. So hopefully you guys will consider me for it.
Thanks for everything you've done on the environmental committee, Kevin. Much appreciated. Have a great night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Madam Clerk, we're ready for the next candidate, please.
Brenda should be coming over.
Brenda's here.
Hey, Brenda. We can't
Hi,
see you yet. Oh, there we go.
guys.
Now we can see you.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
We're good. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Carol. Good to see you. Happy birthday, Scott.
So we're,
Thanks, Brenda.
so this is a little different than you've done in the past. Obviously, we're on Zoom. So we have decided we're going to ask 5 specific questions. Each one of us is going to ask you a question. They're consistent with all the, there's the same questions we've asked all the candidates. So there's consistency. So I'm going to start off. And before we start off, I want to thank you for all the years of service you have given the community and the city of El Segundo. So why are you interested in renewing, once again, applying for the Planning Commission position?
Why am I interested? Well, you're right. I have served 8 years on the Planning Commission, and I've enjoyed it, every bit of it. I've learned a lot about myself, about interaction with an entity, with public communication. I think it's why am I doing this? I'm excited to sort of get continue with some of the projects that we have going. I have very much, as I say, I have no specific schooling for planning, and although I think I've got great decision-making skills, I have really enjoyed participating and giving back to the community. to the community that I love, that I've been a part of, and to be a part of a good team like Planning Commission. And I sat with Scott and some of the past commissioners that have moved on. I've enjoyed that, and I think that it's just a way for me to participate. I think I've got a unique perspective, being born and raised in El Segundo. My dad retired fire department. My mom graduated class of '48. So our roots are long, and I think that we're at a time right now where El Segundo is really evolving, and I think it's important to grow, to make the changes that are positive, because it's El Segundo's time. I know that when I opened the business, the Jewelry Source, it'll be 36 years this year. Back in the day, to be on the street and to open a small business in a community that I loved, everybody said, God, well, why are you doing that? Well, why wouldn't I do it? Because I thought that the time for the downtown area to be a vibrant area was 36 years ago. And I think that now we really are having some wonderful changes.
Thank you. Scott, you're up.
Thanks, Brenda. How are you?
I'm good, Scott. Thank you.
Question I have for you is, from your perspective, what are the more pressing land use issues facing the city of El Segundo?
Well, in my opinion, the affordable housing is the #1 issue. And it is very much important for us to get it right. I know that, not only, the senior housing is important, but the affordable housing that the state has mandated us to come up with, I think, is really, really important. So I think there's going to be a lot of need for communication with the developers as we move through to try to identify some areas that are potentially plausible for us to create these numbers that are feeling ginormous. I think that's probably the #1 land use issue we have. Answer your question?
I think that's a wonderful answer. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Good afternoon, Brenda. This is Chris. I have
Hi
question
there.
#3. Hi there.
Okay, Chris.
What year was the
Hi.
Planning Commission founded?
A good question. I don't know.
No, I'm just kidding. That's not the question. It's
Oh.
how is your education, professional background, and overall life experience prepared you for service on the Planning Commission? And I believe you've touched on some of these in the last few, but if you could elaborate just a bit more, please.
Yeah, I would just say my unique perspective of being born and raised in El Segundo, and being a small business owner, and sort of living in the downtown community. I mean, I certainly have my finger on the pulse with meeting with the the people that live here, and I think I've got a pretty good idea about who's moving in, who lives here. Sort of, I just think I have my finger on the pulse of sort of the vibe, the feel for the community to help make some of those important decisions for the planning department.
Thank you.
Hey, Brenda, this is Lance. I got your next question.
All right, Mr. Drew.
All right. This should be easy for you because you have a lot of El Segundo experience. What unique El Segundo experience do you bring to the table?
Well, I don't know how many times I could say it, but I am a born and raised native El Segundo girl.
Yeah, I think
My
asked
dad
and
retired
answered
from the
already,
fire
right?
department.
Yeah.
I know. The unique experience, I think, is just my perspective. I love this community like you all do, and want to see it grow and continue to prosper. We are at a real unique turning point. I think that we've got a really exciting city council right now, you guys. So I first of all want to commend you, because I think that there's a lot of good work that has been done since in the last several years. It's just kind of, it has been time to sort of turn over a new generation of decision makers, and I think that you're all very bright people and are really doing a great job. So it makes it a lot more fun for me to participate and to see that growth and development so that it's done properly and thoughtfully. And it's exciting times for El Segundo. Very exciting.
Thanks, Brenda.
You're welcome. Thanks, Lance.
Hi, Brenda. Drew here. Congratulations, 36 years. That's a huge milestone.
Yes,
you got me beat by
Thank you so
20 years.
much.
I'm at 16 years to like another 22 decades is incredibly impressive. So well done.
Well, I do want to say, because this is an interesting factoid, in 3 years from now, which will be 2024, I will have been in this jewelry business for 50 years of my life, 50.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? I started when I was a junior in high school. That's a lot of years. It's a lot of jewelry. But 36 years I've had this store. But anyway, sorry, Mayor Boyle.
I feel like a big sales coming 3 years, like a big blowout, 50-year and a celebration.
Yeah. Maybe it should.
Okay, I got a couple questions. One is and I think we may have even asked you this a few years ago. What do you think the residents in El Segundo's perspective is as it relates to housing on the east side of PCH?
What do I think the residents, how they feel?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think that there's a changing mindset about that. I think traditionally we know it's been no housing is a support, and we know why. So I think that there is a lot of growth that's happening, and I think that people are realizing that some of what has developed east of Sepulveda is really well thought out. It's really done nicely, and there's no reason not to integrate housing over there. It just is a bit of a natural fit where people want to work and play, and it could be done. It could be done very thoughtfully. So I think that there is a bit of a mind change where they're feeling it might be not as bad as traditionally it always has been.
Okay, thanks, Brenda. Next one is when you look back at the time you spent on the Planning Commission, are there any decisions you've made you wish you had made differently? There don't have to be any, but just
No, not really. I mean, I know that
you can blame Scott. That was Councilman Nichols' question, former Planning Commission guy. That wasn't mine. So take it out on him.
No, they really haven't.
Okay,
I mean,
we asked that of your colleague Ryan too, as incumbents. Just
okay. Yeah, but I mean, given that we've been given the information from staff and you know the various reports that come to us, I think that I really don't have any regrets about any of the decisions that we've made. I think that again, we've got there's a good crew there now. I think that we've got a very good, solid planning commission now. So no, I have no issues with any of them.
okay, and then lastly, something that you're particularly proud of on the Planning Commission that you guys have been able to achieve, guys, gals?
Well, you know, there's the Smoky Hollow is a really big one. Not that we can really take credit for any of it, other than it's you know, not putting it up any roadblocks, allowing some of these a little more progressive sorts of developments to sort of thoughtfully find their way through the city process, I think is really important. And East of Sepulveda is another one. You know, Smoky Hollow is another one. There's going to be some dynamic changes in the downtown that I'm sure I wouldn't be able to participate in. That shouldn't preclude anything as far as, you know, wanting to sit on the Planning Commission. But I just think it's, again, pretty exciting times, really.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And I think we are, look at my notes here, I think we're pretty much out of time. Thank you, sir, so much. Okay. Appreciate it. Great evening.
All right, I sure will. I'll exit now, and you guys have a good meeting tonight. Thanks.
Bye, Brenda.
Thanks.
Bye.
Michael Kiner should be coming on.
Okay.
Welcome, Michael.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah, and thank you for putting your name in the hat for the Planning Commission's position. And we're, this is a Zoom, obviously, so we're doing a little different. We're actually have 5 questions that each of the candidates been asked, and each of the council members will ask you 1 question each. And at the time, there'll be some time for you to ask us some questions. So I'm going to start off. And so why are you interested in joining the Planning Commission?
Well, that's a good question. I'm interested because we've been into El Segundo now for about 4.5 years. And I've spent a lot of time in LA, basically, ever since I was at UCLA many, many years ago. And El Segundo, to me, is a very unique city with a lot of pluses and a lot of challenges, given its geographic location, in the South Bay, the proximity to the airport, a lot of things. And the more I get to know El Segundo, the more I like it, or my family likes it. And I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to use my skills that I've developed over 40 years as an architect and a developer to perhaps help the city and contribute something back.
Thank you. Scott?
Thank you, Ms. Perstick. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hi, Scott.
Congratulations on your daughter being accepted onto that squad there. It was,
oh, yeah, thank you. That was exciting.
Purdue, right? Was it?
Pittsburgh. Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
She's a senior at El Segundo High. She's going to Pittsburgh, and we'll be on their women's gymnastics team.
That's super exciting. I know you guys have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that. So
no kidding.
So from your perspective, what are the more pressing land use issues facing the city of El Segundo?
That's a good question, Scott. I think that from my observation, one of them is clearly whether to develop residential housing on the east side of Sepulveda. There's no question. Whether you have the infrastructure in place to allow that to happen, from not only from an educational standpoint, but public services. The airport, the relationship with the airport is probably a constant that will always be an issue in El Segundo. The development of your downtown area, any other, the ancillary commercial or mixed use properties. So I think there's a lot of interesting, as I said earlier, there's issues, there's opportunities. And I think it's important that, the city carefully analyzes all the pros and cons before they make what are going to be some pretty big decisions.
Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Hi there, Michael. This is Chris Pimentel. Very nice to be acquainted.
Chris.
Can you tell us more about your education, professional background, and your life experiences as they tie to this? It sounds like you are richly ensconced in this world. If you could give us a little bit of background as we were just meeting you.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. As I said earlier, I'm a graduate of UCLA and then also the Southern California Institute of Architecture. I've been an architect and a developer for almost 40 years now, practicing mostly in the Palm Springs, Palm Desert area. We have a home in Palm Desert and also in El Segundo. I have extensive interaction with city staffs, building department, planning, public works, public art, community development. I've been the applicant in, I can't even tell you how many planning commission meetings, city council meetings, public hearings. I've reached out to the community to try to facilitate, agreements for some of our projects. So I'm very well aware of how the process works from a real estate development standpoint. Some of the other areas, obviously, the Planning Commission is involved in. I'm not as knowledgeable as those, but I think that's basically at least the majority of what the Planning Commission normally deals with. I've had a lot of extensive interaction with city managers at different cities, particularly with as on the developer side, not so much on the architecture side. Most of my work is custom residential, mixed use, apartment projects, those types of things. There's not a lot of demand for big residential, big commercial projects in the Palm Springs area. And I love what I do. I mean, I'm very fortunate to be able to say that I started out almost 40 years ago working for myself. I've never really worked for a large firm and have been able to be successful at it. And I still enjoy what I do every single day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Michael. This is Lance Giroux. I have the next question for you.
Sure, Lance.
What unique El Segundo experience do you bring to the table?
Well, if you just want to bring it down into something that has happened in El Segundo, you know, I'm a resident of El Segundo. I've seen my daughters, you know, I've watched them grow up in El Segundo from being teenagers now to, you know, young women. So I think from that perspective, probably my strongest interaction is seeing how kids relate, how they live in the city, how they use the opportunities and the resources available to them, and how the community itself works, I guess, from a family standpoint. But most, to be honest with you, Lance, mostly through my children's eyes, through, you know, 12-year-old girls, and now they're 18 and 16, and how they've grown and matured in the city. That's probably my best perspective, to be honest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike. Drew here. And
Hi, Drew.
hi, I was going to ask you, you touched on it earlier, talked about one of the most pressing issues being what do we do with the east side of PCH from a residential development standpoint? So having lived here for a while now and gaining the perspective that you have, how do you think most of our residents feel about that idea?
You know, that's a good question. To be honest with you, Drew, I'm not sure, because I'm not sure that I've seen, and maybe it's out there and I haven't read it. I'm not sure I've seen the pros and cons. I mean, if you add, let's just pick a number, if you add 2,000 residential units on the east side of Sepulveda, how does that impact the cultural amenities and the infrastructure programs that are in existence right now? Will our residents be impacted by that in a negative way or in a positive way? I mean, it's obvious when you have hotels and you have TOT taxes and you have revenue streams that are coming from commercial development, how that impacts the city. It's a lot different when you have a residential project, which is more of a burden on the city resources than a commercial project. So I think that, from what I can tell, I think there's probably people that are for it. I'm sure there's people that are against it. But I think what would be important is to lay out all the information and let people make educated decisions.
Great answer. Thank you. And I was just going to ask, have you done any work in El Segundo or most of your development projects in the Coachella Valley?
The only project I've done in El Segundo, and Scott knows this, is remodeling our own house. And I have done some projects in Los Angeles, in the LA area. But to be honest with you, Drew, I really am not looking to do projects in El Segundo because, not because I don't want to, or I don't think there's some great projects and some great opportunities. I just am at a stage of my career where I feel more comfortable working in the area that I've really focused on. Although I have gotten to know people in your city staff and planning and building department, and I must say I'm impressed with them, and they all seem like very capable people.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I think we got 1 minute left, Mike. If there's anything else you'd like to add.
I just, it's interesting. I've never really applied for a planning commission position. I've been on a lot of nonprofit boards, a lot of them. But this has seemed like an interesting opportunity to maybe utilize my experience and my skill set in an area, that in a different way, and maybe utilize the knowledge that I've acquired over these years to help in a group-like setting, like a planning commission. I realize the planning commission is, it's the junior step or the subordinate step to the council. But I look forward to the interaction between the members of the council and the planning commission, and it's a smaller government, which I think I would find interesting as well. So that's really why I decided to just, put my name in here as an applicant.
Well, thank you very much for that, and congrats on 40 years of being in business for yourself. That's awesome,
Thank you.
especially if you still wake up loving it.
I do. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for your time,
Okay.
Michael.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome.
Thanks, Mike.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm moving Carol Matthews over.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you for putting your name in to apply for the planning commission. We are obviously doing this through Zoom, and we have structured 5 questions that each of us will ask you one. And at the end, we'll give you some time for you to ask us some questions back.
All right, sounds good.
So I'm the first one. So why are you interested in becoming a planning commissioner?
I've lived in the city for 35 years now. And I finally got to retire this last June from Maricosta High School as the drama teacher. So plenty of drama in my life. And I now have some time to actually want to give back to the city that has given so much to me these 35 years.
Well, thank you. Mr. Nickel?
Thank you, Ms. Perstick. Hi, Carol. Nice to see you again.
Hi, nice
saw
to see
you at Kiwanis earlier today.
Yes.
So welcome.
Thank
so
you.
my question for you is, from your perspective, what are the more pressing land use issues facing the city of El Segundo currently?
I believe that like some new residential apartments or condos or homes that are being considered to be built, especially on the east side of PCH or Sepulveda, that are some of the pressing issues right now. Of course, with Top Golf coming in, which I know was a lot of drama was involved with Top Golf. But I think those are the pressing issues. I've actually lived for many years. I now live close to the high school, but in Smoky Hollow. And I have to say, I'm thrilled and excited to see what is happening with Smoky Hollow and just the, building it up to be very not only artistic, but movies and just all that kind of thing coming in, I think has really helped the city also. But it's hard for the city to want to stay what it was, which was kind of like the little Mayberry RFD, and it's probably not so much that anymore. And I think those who have been here a long time are having a hard time finding that change happening. So I'm sure with these new plans to possibly have some more residential properties coming in on the east side, I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion about that.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Hi there, Carol. This is Chris Pimentel.
Hi, Chris.
Can you tell us, how is your education, professional background, and your overall life experience, how have they prepared you for the Planning Commission?
Drama, my theatrical background. So I have no problem speaking up and speaking out. I've held many leadership positions within the teaching world. I was very involved in our union, not only statewide, but nationally. I was an NEA director, and I would go to Washington, D.C. 4 times a year and lobby Congress on behalf of public education and also the arts. And I've just been very involved, like I said, with the union, with teachers and leading teachers and supporting public education. And I think that has a lot to do with actually some of the planning commission, because with the new residential things that are going on involves, we have a very good educational system here in El Segundo, and that's what brings people in. Families want to live here because of the education that is provided for them.
Hey, Carol, this is Lance Drew. I have the next question.
Hi, Lance.
What unique El Segundo experience do you bring to the table?
Well, living here for a long time, I actually got more involved with the city when I contacted, rest in peace, Mayor Mike Gordon, so long ago. And he got me involved in just seeing what was happening with the city and everything. And then being, just getting to know your neighbors and all that kind of thing. Like I said, in living in Smoky Hollow, I love that we had the art walk and everything. I thought that was awesome. And unfortunate, of course, with this last year, we couldn't do much of anything. I actually set up with the teachers union and brought so many teachers from out of state when we had our big convention in July to our fireworks show, and sat them in the bleachers, and then did a whole little, neighborly planning thing when we held the 100th anniversary, which was awesome. That was such an awesome presentation. So, and, it's hard because of being a teacher and a drama teacher to get involved as much as I've wanted, but now that I'm retired, I'm looking to get involved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Carol. It's Drew. How you doing?
Hi, Drew. How are you?
Good, thanks. Good time to retire, I suppose, with all the craziness going on. Were you involved? Like, how recently did you retire?
In June of in 2020, during the pandemic. I had it, like everybody else, a pandemic, whatever celebration you were doing, that's what I had. It's a pandemic retirement.
Well, congrats nonetheless. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
My question is one you alluded to very early on in the interview, which is related to housing east of PCH in El Segundo, and just what do you think the resident sentiment is overall? You've been here a long time, like I have, not quite as long. I've been here about 25 years, but what do you think the sentiment is in town?
I think I have to say very similar to Topgolf. It's going to be a very mixed bag. You're going to have people who are, like I said, want that change that's supposed to be more industrial, more business. So having residential living over there, and probably even for the police officers and everything, it's a whole new way to have to navigate everything. And then there's those that, want, like I said, want to live in our city. It's a great city, and they want their students going to our schools, and they want to be able to participate in all the wonderful things that we will soon get to participate in again. And so I do think, though, it's going to be a very mixed bag of what is best for El Segundo.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Anything you'd like to add? We've got about a minute left, Carol.
I appreciate the opportunity to interview with you all. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the hard work you have had to do during this very trying time. I know, I understand. And the fact that we can still do this and still carry on our business is very important. And like I said, I'm very interested in giving back to our city, as I have lived here so long and want to be more involved with the city.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much, Carol. And we appreciate you taking the time to apply and do this interview with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great night.
Bye-bye. You too. Thank you very much.
Okay. Madam Clerk, we're done with all the candidates at this point. So now is the time for council deliberation. And so I'll just open up the floor. Anyone that would like to speak?
I just wanted to say that all the candidates were very, very good. It's going to be a hard selection process.
I absolutely concur. Thank you. Councilman.
Yeah, same. I you know, it's amazing from DEI to this, the amount of people that we have in town that want to volunteer their time is pretty amazing. I do believe there's probably, in my notes, based on interview experience, background, that kind of thing, I do think there's a top 4 in my book anyway. I don't know how we all want to go about that, but I think there's going to be kind of a tough decision between the 4, but in my opinion, we can't go wrong in any one of those decisions.
Okay, thanks, Lance. Councilman Nickel.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you have 2 incumbents that have been there as long as they have, I'm a big believer in keeping some sense of stability and historical knowledge there. I think that I don't think that it gets the credit that it's due, especially at that level. Understanding, when they shove a traffic study down your throat, right? None of you had to sit through traffic studies, and they show these animations of how cars are going to queue for like the Chick-fil-A, drive-through, and understanding that, with experience, you now have seen like, okay, I saw the traffic study for In-N-Out. I saw what it said. I saw how they told me it was going to work, and now I've seen it in real life, right? And so you have that frame of reference, because I can tell you early on in the Planning Commission, you get the traffic study and you're like, what am I looking at? And you're looking at like different counts at intersections and all these like peak time, non-peak time, AM, PM. And I mean, they'll make a traffic study say whatever they really need to make it say, to make sure that, they can say that it's not like the grade of impact. Like there's no F intersections, right? It's like, oh, that intersection's a C. Like, are you kidding me? It's going to be a disaster, And so just having that experience, I think, is key. I think we have some great candidates. In my opinion, I think that, there's a few that rise to the top simply in maybe their experience, their understanding of what a commission is tasked with on a regular basis. I think that goes a long way, because the learning curve, when you don't have any idea what CEQA is, and you're coming into the Planning Commission, and you're certifying, environmental impact reports. That's one of your primary purposes on the Planning Commission. I think that hurts. So I have a good idea as to the 3 that I think I would put forward. But
yeah, Scott, I was going to say, I think, given that both you and Lance suggest the same thing, let's go around the horn. We'll hear the same thing, and then if everyone feels like they got 3 or 4, then we could just talk about those and tally them up. Councilmember Perstock. Thanks, Scott.
you want me to name who I would think?
No, just, do you concur that basically you want to go with the 3 or 4 that you think are the best, and then?
Yes, yeah. And, and I also want to bring up, the planning commission themselves submitted 3 names, which was Ryan, Brenda, and Kevin.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Carol.
I'm ready.
Okay, Mayor Protem?
Yeah, I would echo that. I think we shouldn't undersell how powerful and important the Planning Commission is, and that there's a newness aspect of it that, to the other council members' points, it doesn't suffer that well. If you are not versed in the terminology, the rights, responsibilities, and jurisdictions, that's a very steep learning curve, where your delays cost millions and sometimes tens of millions of dollars if you're not well versed in it. Similarly, I think we have some really good candidates that are also on a different committee and commission. I have really significant reservations about someone trying to be on both. And I think that that's something that, perhaps that's a policy for down the road, but I think it's a bit of an either or when you come to things that discuss land use and regulation. And both this body and the environmental committee talk to a degree and touch on planning, zoning, and land use. So I have reservations about people being on both. And similarly, that I think we've got great people that we really work through to put on all our committees and commissions. And if you are incumbent on one, there's a reason for that, because you're probably pretty doggone good at it. So I like most people, I guess I have my 3 or 4, but I just want to point out that I think that I concur that there is importance in already being versed in what you do there. And I have reservations about people trying to do 2 things, particularly 2 things that fall in the same half of our sort of regulatory bevy of services.
Okay, thank you, sir. So if it's all right with everybody, I think what I'd like to do is go in the same order. So it'd be Lance, then Scott, then Carol, then Chris, and then me, laying out who you'd like, or you think not like, who you think makes the best candidates.
Should we just name one at the moment, or so that that's our top choice?
I think for time's sake, they have 4. I was going to suggest 4, because then I'll tally and we'll see how we end up with the votes. If that makes sense, because that's similar to what we did with the DEI, as we whittled that list down and kept going at the iterations. But I think we can get there with just 1 round, probably. Does that work for everybody?
Let me know if you need my help.
Tracy, do you mind taking notes with me? Just little tally marks next to names. Okay.
All right, so I'll go first.
Yes, sir.
I have Ryan Baldino, I have Kevin McGay, I have Corey Zuppo, and I have Brendan Newman. No particular order, those just the 4 that I like the most.
Thank you, Lance. Okay, Scott?
I like them all, but I can't choose them all. My 3 would be Kevin, Ryan, and Brenda.
Kevin, Ryan, and Brenda. Thank you, sir.
Kevin was a very close second place last time there was a seat available, and he impressed me then. He impressed me now.
I forgot about that. Thank you for that, sharing that. That's right. Okay, Carol.
I had Kevin, Ryan, and Brenda.
Kevin, Ryan, and Brenda. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
I did want to say that Michael and Julie were very close next, because they're both very impressive, and I'd love to see them come on eventually.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
My top 4 were Michael, Julie, Ryan, and Brenda.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. And mine are Mike, Ryan, and Brenda. And so it looks like it's going to be Kevin, Ryan, and Brenda. Tracy, do you show the same?
I do.
Okay. And
are we winnowing down to 4 and then selecting from that, or is this the final tally?
I think this is the final. I mean, we only have, Mike has 2 votes, Brenda has 5, Ryan has 5, Kevin has 3, Julie has 1, and Corey has 1. But whatever you guys think.
Some of us voted for 4, and some of us voted for 3, though.
That's true. Who voted for 3? I think Scott did. And Carol, you want to expedite things by casting your 4th vote, Lance?
Or do you want to go down to 3? Because if I was gonna go down to 3, does that help it, or how do you want to work it? I think it might be.
I don't think that would help in this case, because I'm looking at Chris's point is like Mike has 2 votes, Brenda has 5, Ryan has 5. So it's really coming down to Mike, Kevin, or Corey. Chris, is your point, correct?
So should we just go around?
Yeah, I'm at the will of the council, however you want to do it. Yeah, of those, so let me just make note here. So we got Kevin, Mike, and well, Julie had a vote too. So Corey or Julie. Kevin, Mike, Corey, or Julie. This might complicate things. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I know this. Typically, if we were in closed session, we're in a room, the door's open, but we would just be kind of talking about it. Like, hey, let's talk with this person, what we liked, what we disliked, or, what we thought would be best. I know we had said that we were going to go more DEI committee style, where it's like, hey, put in your names and we just vote. I mean, I have no problem speaking openly about, why I maybe didn't have a name on that list or why I put a name on that list. If the rest of you are comfortable just kind of talking about it.
Totally. Yeah, we did that for the DEI too. If you recall, we started talking about the merits of the individuals as we got further down. Go for it.
So I think Corey's great. She brings a tremendous amount of experience to this. I would hate to lose her from the environmental committee, personally. Everything that she does in her position at Delta is so tied to environmental impacts. And I think she is a wonderful conduit to kind of what's happening, like, well, one, at the airport in regards to environmental things and kind of trends that are coming down the pipeline. Like, she has her finger on the pulse on, Senate bills at the state level, things that are going to affect business on the environmental side. And so I see her as a tremendous asset that we would potentially lose from that capacity. So I'd love to keep her there. If I'm the manager of the team and I'm setting my lineup. I thought Julia impressed. I thought Mike impressed as well. The reason why I said Kevin versus either one of those two, because they both were very impressive, was one, because, he's come here before and he was very close to getting on before. Two, and I love a commission or a subcommittee that has conflicting opinions. And I thought his opinion regarding housing east of Sepulveda, he almost seemed very nope, not going to happen, can't do it. And I see that as a wonderful potential voice on that committee or on that commission when they discuss those items, because if he dives in and he sees all the things that the state is pushing and what we need to do and how we need to do it, I can see that voice, just not having a consistent, like, hey, it has to happen, let's make this work. I love having that dissenting voice on there. And that's one of the reasons why I think, even though, whether I agree or disagree with his opinion, that was elevated for me and I put him forward.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Nickel.
Pushed him forward.
Would anyone else like to share their sentiment? I certainly agree about Corey. I was the liaison to the environmental committee for the first, 3 years of my first term, I think. And her and Tracy as chair did an incredible job reinvigorating that committee, which is pretty dormant for a while. Okay, who else would like to share their thoughts about their decision? Lance.
Yeah, I thought with Kevin and Corey, the thing that really impressed me the most was just their knowledge of the process, the CEQA, all the things that Scott just mentioned. I just think that's indispensable. And when you have a chance or choice to choose someone with that type of knowledge or someone without it in this day and age and what we're facing going forward, I think that gives them both a leg up on the competition. I loved what the rest of them have to say. I liked some of them really kind of thought out of the box, different types of backgrounds. But for this particular position, Planning Commission is very, very important. I just think this helps flatten that learning curve a little bit more than it would be for the others. And that's why I thought they were there. And I like Kevin and Corey both very much. I would probably say if I had to make a choice between the two of them, I might side with Kevin right now, just based on his background and his interview.
Thanks, Lance. That helps. Carol, did you want to weigh in?
My selection will be Kevin. I just think he brings a different perspective. He's got young children, so he he brings a different perspective to the community, as well as he's very dedicated, and he's done an amazing job on the environmental committee. And I think he really jumped in, feet first, and he's really engaged in the community. I think it's, like he said, he interviewed really well the first time, and I think it's his time to go on to the commission.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mayor Pro Tem.
I just have reservations about people having two portfolios for the same project. I mean, the environmental committee could be weighing in on reservations and concerns about something that's coming in front of the planning commission. And that is, I think, if not a common law conflict, it's certainly a cerebral one. So I just have reservations in that regard. Not that he's not a superior candidate. Obviously he is. And certainly, Corey is a 30-pound brain. I mean, she's could melt us with death rays from her forehead. She's very intelligent. So I don't have any reservations about any of the aptitude. It's just that I think that there is a conflict in that. And I think when you have someone like Mike, who comes in, who could step into the job and begin doing it from both sides from jump, to me, it seemed like an interesting, a new perspective, someone who, to your point, does not develop inside the city, but is very well versed in development processes, and obviously has a good grasp of the trade-offs that municipal governments make when they make land use decisions. So that's why, if it were my third position, I'd give it to Mike.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Tracy.
Can ask them to resign from
their current capacity, right? Yeah.
If I recall, you have to resign.
Yeah, that's
I was on the environmental. I was on the environmental committee when I got on the planning commission, and I didn't have a choice.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I did a little sleuthing today, and I don't believe that's in our code.
Might not be in the code, but that has been our practice, Chris. I can tell you, because we've had to have those conversations with people about them stepping down. Because we had, Carol, wasn't there one during our first term that was doing both? And then we were like, this isn't a good idea.
I think maybe. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Okay, but Chris, I was going to say.
We never asked him, because we never asked Kevin that question. We asked Corey, but we never asked Kevin that question.
Right. I suspect he would be willing to do that. But Chris, I was going to say, I like Mike's perspective too. When I look at our current makeup, we have one residential developer on there, and Michelle Keldorf. Outside of that, we have a litigator in construction who sees a lot of development projects. But in terms of actual land use developer, we don't have anyone with that skill set to the degree that Mike has, that I'm aware of. And so we talk about the depth and breadth of projects that he has probably seen in Coachella Valley. I think that's a really interesting perspective. But I also think I would not want to lose either Corey or Kevin on the environmental committee. But if I had to pick between the two, I would say it would be Kevin. I hate to see Corey, I know this is selfish, but see her leave in the leadership capacity in the environmental committee. And so basically what I'm saying is I'm for either Kevin or Mike. Chris, it sounds like you're steadfast on Mike, but we don't have more than 2 votes for Mike to move forward at this point. Chris, did you want to make another pass at it?
I'm not the world's most persuasive person, and I've come to accept that. So I see the merits on that, but so are we down to, are we voting or?
I think what I see is there seems to be consensus on Ryan and Brenda. Right, there's plenty of votes. I'm looking at the tally there across the board. So for the third person, we have 3 people in favor of Kevin with a half vote for me, either Mike or Kevin. So I think we're there. I think we have consensus as a council.
Very well.
Yeah.
I think Mike will be back. I don't think this will be the last time he puts his name in the hat.
And we have encouraged people in the past when they apply to reapply, hence Kevin McGay taking his, keeping his eye on this and actually applying again. So that's great. It actually worked. And so I want to stress upon Tracy, I don't know if Mr. Mitnick's listening, but in the past, we've done a better job the last couple of years informing all candidates within 24 hours.
Yeah.
And we've often accepted responsibility for calling different people to tell them yes or no.
Yes.
And so I think we should continue to do that unless anyone feels otherwise. No? Okay, so who would like to contact Corey? Lance raised his hand first. I'll make a note of that, Lance. Okay. Tracy, would you make notice as well, please?
Yeah, I am.
Thank you. Who would like to contact Ryan with the affirmative for the committee?
Carol can.
Okay, Carol, thank you. Julia?
I'll contact her. She's just down the street.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Kevin?
I can as well too.
Scott raised his hand right when you're saying that, so we'll just spread the level a bit here. Thank you. Brenda?
I can call Brenda.
Okay. And then we have Mike. You have a relationship with Mike, right, Scott?
Yeah, I was wondering if I needed to like recuse myself from voting for either him or Corey because I sold them houses, but it was so long ago.
Now is not the time to ask.
No, I'm just saying it's 1 year. It's 1 year is what the city attorney tells me. But no, I'll call Mike. I'd love to call Mike.
Thank you. And then
encourage him to run again.
Yeah.
His name in the hat again.
And I'll call Carol if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah, and then have Carol apply for the arts and culture.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
Those interviews are going to be on the 20th of April, so encourage her to spread her wings.
I will. I'll make a note of that now.
Okay. All right, guys. I don't mean to get you off, but if I don't get off this, I can't start the other meeting because I'm the.
We are happily leaving. We're adjourning at 5:40 p.m. See you guys in 10 minutes. Bye.
See you guys in 10 minutes. Bye.